Welcome back to GDLA Plus. Some sad news to report now. Kelly Clarkson's ex-husband, Brandon Blackstock, has died.
Have you ever been so sad about losing someone that you couldn't move? That's what took place when Brandon Blackstock died. Now, Savannah, his daughter, is telling her story for the first time. It's a story of love, faith, and family that will stay with you for a long time. If you want to go on a trip that you won't forget, you need to pay attention. The heartfelt tribute of a daughter. The Blackstock Savannah Lee didn't need a big speech or a well-done interview to talk about how much she hurt. Everyone who knew her story was shocked by just one post, one picture, and a few honest words. Heaven got an angel, but I lost a piece of my heart and my favorite cowboy. I love you, Daddy, and I will always miss you. People who read those words feel heavy in the chest. They make you stop in the middle of scrolling and read them again. Sarah Blackstock is Brandon Blackstock's first child. She is the daughter of his short marriage to Melissa Ashworth. People knew him as Kelly Clarkson's husband, but Savannah was the most important thing in his life long before that. Close family and friends often said that their love was unshakable. It was the kind of quiet, steady love that only a father and daughter could share after years of phone calls, long drives, and talks. It wasn't just a nickname when she called him her favorite cowboy. She saw Brandon in it, strong, solid, and rooted in a world that sometimes seemed too loud. He was more than just her dad. He was her rock. Those few words brought back memories of the laughs, lessons, and quiet support that made her world what it was. Because it wasn't for the news, her honor had a different effect. It wasn't smooth or practiced. It was true. That's how people felt. Family, friends, and even people they didn't know could feel the deep love and sadness. It made everyone remember that there was a man who meant a lot to the people who really knew him. Not just his songs or fame. This was more than just sadness for Savannah. This was her farewell to the person who had shown her the way, kept her safe, and taught her many things about the world. Now, at age 23, she's going through the kind of loss that changes you for good. She was in a lot of pain, but she was also very strong, like her father, who raised her. She wrote more than just loss in her post. Faith was another thing it carried. She wrote, "Heaven gained an angel," which said it all about how she was going to deal with things. There was hope in those 6 words. Hope that the story of her dad would go on. Hope that his love would always be with his family and in every memory. Not only did her pain draw people in, but so did her honesty. After years of following the Blackstock-Clarkson family, fans were shocked when Savannah spoke out for the first time. It was like peeking into a very private world. They lived in a world where fame didn't matter, and the relationships they made were what mattered. But this is just the start of the story. Why did her words hit so close to home? Think about the man whose words they were about. His life, the love he gave, and the things he left behind. And that story takes us right into Brandon Blackstock's life and journey. A life remembered. When Brandon Blackstock was alive, his life often touched on fame, but his story was never about that. He grew up in a musical family and made a quiet but powerful living as a talent manager, helping artists make it in a business that can be both exciting and tough. He came from a family with a lot of country music. His dad, Narvel Blackstock, managed stars like Reba McEntire. Brandon's music wasn't just a job, it was in his blood. It shaped how he worked, how he connected with people, and how he built trust in a field where trust isn't common. Not many people outside of Nashville knew Brandon's name in his early years. He lived a simple life with his first wife, Melissa Ashworth. They started a family together and raised their son and daughter in a home where love was more important than fame. The people who knew him at that time say that the most normal things made him happy, like showing Savannah how to ride a horse, having quiet meals with her, and just being there. Long before news stories and cameras came along, it was a time of solid simplicity. When Brandon met Kelly Clarkson, his whole world changed. Their worlds came together in a way that felt like a movie scene. Music and timing connected two lives. They got married in 2013 and started having kids. River Rose came first, then Remington. Their house quickly became a lively mix of love, fun, and chaos. Kelly often talked about their mixed family, calling them a band. She always made sure that every child, from her first marriage to Brandon or from her marriage to Brandon, felt seen. It wasn't always easy, but it was theirs, flawed, real, and full of love. Even though his marriage was well known, Brandon valued his privacy more than anything else. He didn't try to get into the spotlight or be famous. Though he didn't like being seen in public very often, when he did, he was always surrounded by family. Folks who knew him well knew that music and family were his rock solid, the things that made every decision he made make sense. He put as much thought and effort into being a dad as he did into managing artists. When no one was looking, he was there in ways that meant the most. This is what the doctors said. At first, no one knew about it because Brandon didn't want them to. He fought malicious melanoma in secret for 3 years. It was the kind of fight that tries your strength in ways that not many people can understand. In the last few months, seizures became more of a problem, but he never let his illness control how he lived his last days. He instead focused on his faith, his kids, and the quiet life he had made for himself in Montana. That ranch became his safe haven. He could get away from the noise and be with the people who loved him the most there. Bryant died at home in Montana on August 17, 2025. The end was peaceful, quiet, and full of love. It was the perfect finish for the life he had lived. For those who knew him, his death was more than just a personal loss. It was the end of a stable presence, someone who had quietly changed lives without expecting anything in return. He left behind a void that words couldn't quite fill, especially for the kids who were his whole world. But his influence speaks even in the quiet. It's in Savannah's tribute, River and Remington's laughing, and the many lives he changed through music without ever having to be the center of attention. Brandon's story shows that the most powerful stories are sometimes written in the quiet moments of love, when bonds are formed when no one is looking, and when people are brave enough to fight without making a fuss. Everyone now knows the name of the man they lost, but to his family, he will always be more than just a news story or a name in the business. He was the steady hand, everyone's favorite cowboy, and the quiet power that held everything together. You have to look beyond the man himself to really understand how important his life was. You have to look at the family he built, the love they shared, and the difficult but beautiful way that a blended family carried on his legacy. The dynamics of a blended family. Adding a new family member is never easy, but Brandon Blackstock and Kelly Clarkson treated their promise like an unspoken one. They knew right away that love wasn't just being there for your own children, but for all the children in your family as well, giving each one the same amount of care, attention, and patience. That idea affected how their home worked, even though other people could only see small parts of it. Brandon was married to Melissa Ashworth before Kelly, Savannah, and her brother were born from that marriage. River Rose and Remington were born from his marriage to Kelly. 4 kids, 4 different people. There are 4 groups of needs. They found a beat that worked, though. Kelly once called them a band, which is a simple but perfect way to describe how they work. Harmony is important for bands to work well together. They need balance, work, and the ability to change when one note goes off. Of course, there were problems. There are a lot of them in blended homes. It was harder for the kids to keep their balance because they didn't live under the same roof every day. Because Savannah and her brother were older, they split their time. This meant that they had to come up with creative ways to make sure that no one felt left out when memories were being made. The little things that were planned and done on purpose were the most important. Weekend trips, family dinners, and quiet conversations helped the kids feel like they fit everywhere they were. As the oldest, Savannah played a special part in that situation. She was the steady thread that linked the old and new parts of her dad's life. She became close with River and Remington in a way that went beyond being their half-sister or step-sibling. They had someone with her who knew what it was like to grow up while being loved and watched by a lot of people. She was a rock for the younger kids because of her quiet strength. She made the hard parts of being in a mixed family a little less stressful. People have always been interested. The family was in the news a lot, even when they didn't want to be. People were interested in the mix of a famous singer, a talent manager, and their unusually mixed-up home. The cameras rarely showed how Brandon and Kelly worked together to keep things from getting out of hand, though. They felt safe in their privacy. They told enough to make people feel like they knew each other, but they kept the most important parts of the story to themselves. It was hard for them to keep their kids safe, while also having lives that were in some ways public property. The family never really broke up, even when things got hard and Brandon and Kelly's marriage started to show signs of weariness. As things changed around them, co-parenting became the link that kept the love strong. No matter how different they were, they knew that the kids came first. That couldn't be changed. This made sure that the kids always knew that they were loved, even on their birthdays and at important times in their lives. For the kids, those years were full of memories that mattered. Slow mornings in Montana, music playing in the background, and times when fame didn't matter. Their base was strong, even as the world around them changed, because it had a mix of normal and unusual things. Kelly's openness and Brandon's strong desire for privacy made for a unique balance that showed their kids what togetherness looked like, even when things were hard. In Kelly's words, the years they spent in the band taught the kids what family really means. It is not about being beautiful or how you look in public. It means being there, hearing, and making sure everyone feels like their voice is being heard. They still feel united, which helps them get through the hardest times in their lives, even though Brandon isn't there permanently. A mother and a pillar of strength. She has always been known for her voice, but when Brandon Blackstock was sick, Kelly Clarkson's strength spoke louder than any song she had ever sung. When she got the news, she did what all mothers do. She rearranged her whole life to focus on what was most important: her kids and the man who was still family, even though they had a rough past. As she quietly canceled her engagement shows, the bright lights of Las Vegas faded into the background. She chose to put the world on hold so she could be there. Kelly didn't make her choice based on the news or how she looked. It was about love, loyalty, and the pull of being a mother. People who knew her well often called her a mama bear, which she gladly accepted. She had always been honest about how hard it was to be a public mom, but in Brandon's last few months of illness, she became very protective. River Rose, who was 11, and Remington, who was 9, didn't need the media or other people talking. They just needed a safe place to hold on to their dad while they still could. Kelly made sure they had it too. Every appointment, duty, and performance had to be put on hold. She didn't have to say anything or explain herself. Her deeds spoke for themselves. Things had been rough between them in the past. In 2022, they got a messy and public split over money issues that were all over the news. All of that stopped being important when Brandon's health started to get worse. When they realized they had to be together for the sake of their kids, the anger and hurt that had caused them to split up went away. After that, there was quiet, deliberate kindness. The last few months of Brandon's life weren't marked by old fights, but by an unspoken understanding to enjoy the time they had left. Kelly and Brandon had disagreements, but as parents, they stayed together and showed their children that true love can heal all wounds. As of August 2025, the end finally came. Kelly had to do something that no parent can ever really be ready for. She had to help her kids deal with a kind of loss that no parent can ever really be ready for. She kept them out of the public eye so that the grief process would be private and holy. The news was full of sad stories, but for her family, it was the beginning of a new episode marked by her absence and quiet strength. She became their rock, someone they could lean on when they felt like the ground was moving. Kelly knew that being strong doesn't mean staying still, though. As the weeks changed into months, she slowly and carefully started to get back to work. Her return to The Voice was more than just a comeback on TV. It was a quiet act of strength. She didn't come back with a lot of fanfare or big moves. She came back with a purpose. She used her work not as an escape, but as a way to show her kids that moving on doesn't mean forgetting. Between onstage and on air, her only goal was to show her kids that even when they are sad, life can have new rhythms, new starts, and quiet hope. The thing that holds her family together is her quiet strength. Faith, love, and healing are all connected by that same thread. It sets the stage for what comes next, a trip to find light in the dark places and strength where love and loss meet. Healing in the wake of loss. After Brandon Blackstock's death, the family was very quiet. Faith became the thing that held them together. Savannah's faith had been building even before she lost her husband. In her tribute, she talked about how she and her father became closer during his last few months. This link was not just based on love, but also on shared times of prayer, reading the Bible, and quiet thought. It was how they could find peace while the time was still running out and get ready for the goodbye they both knew was coming. Faith doesn't get rid of sadness, but it makes it less painful. For Savannah, it meant holding on to the hope that her dad's story didn't end in that house in Montana. She spoke of that unwavering hope when she called him an angel in heaven. She meant that even though she was in pain, she could take comfort in knowing that he was at peace. That idea now guides her, especially as she grows as a mother. Losing a child while getting ready to have another one has been hard on my emotions, but it has also made me stronger. The lessons her father taught her are with her in every kick and every quiet moment. She finds ways to keep him in the life she is still building. Kelly has also relied on that quiet trust. It's easy to get distracted and noised out when you're in the public eye, but for her to heal, she has had to focus on what's most important: River and Remington. In slow, steady steps, she teaches them that love doesn't go away when someone is gone. It changes form and finds new homes in their daily lives. Their journey speaks to us because it's so common. Loss takes away everything important in life, leaving only love, family, and a memory. People will remember Brandon for more than just the music he helped shape or the big moments in his career. Thank you for watching. Like, share, and subscribe for more heartfelt stories. And don't stop here. Click on the next video popping up on your screen to keep the journey going.